Good afternoon, distinguished ladies and gentlemen joining across. We're just trying to fix some few glitches and we will get started. Just give us some few minutes, please. Okay, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Luis Ngwen. I'm the Deputy Resident Representative of UNDP in Eritrea. I'll be co-facilitating our conversation today with my colleague, Jacqueline, who is our human rights advisor. So I want to quickly welcome everybody who is connected. I hope I'm loud and clear. If you can hear me, let me just say, let me hear yes, then I can continue.
I'm here, you, Luis.
Okay.
Hello,
so
Luis.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, but there is some kind of echo. It's not perfectly clear.
Just a minute. Hear me now? Okay, so we have a 1.5 hour program or presentation that we are going to follow through. That we are going to follow through. The program is very brief and short. Of course, 25 years in the journey of a man is not an easy thing, with all turbulence, ups and downs. And as we convene today, we are here to mark our 25 years experience of UNDP in Eritrea. We will be focusing our conversation today on fostering sustainable development in Eritrea. And we will have some few distinguished seasoned professionals to walk us through a bit of the journey that we have evolved working with the government of Eritrea to support its development agenda. I had earlier said I will co-facilitate or moderate this process with Jacqueline, who will join me at some point in time. She's already here. But without much ado, I will want to give the floor to the UNDP resident representative, Mr. James Wakianga, to formally welcome all of us before we move ahead with the rest of the agenda. Over.
Thank you, Louise. Distinguished participants, excellencies, UN colleagues joining this webinar discussion, invited guests, ladies and gentlemen. Let me just take this opportunity to welcome you all to this webinar, which, as you know, is being hosted at the occasion marking 25 years of UNDP presence in Eritrea. This year, we all witnessed a very disruptive year, the COVID-19 pandemic that almost brought the world economy into a standstill. Indeed, as we all know, its devastating effects and impacts are still unfolding, and with the potential of reversing tremendous efforts that countries were making towards the achievement of the SDGs. The lessons from the COVID-19 and others in the past, of course, do require greater attention than before, especially in ensuring that our development solutions are durable, sustainable, and resilient. Hence, the topic of the discussion, as Louise already mentioned, is fostering sustainable development in Eritrea, and comes at an important juncture of the country's history, especially following the historic signing of the peace agreement with Ethiopia in July 2018, which ushered a new phase of peace and development. UNDP has, in the last 25 years, been a partner of choice for Eritrea's sustainable development, and alongside other UN agencies, contributed to the promotion of its national development agenda. This contribution was anchored on national priorities espoused in the various national planning frameworks of Eritrea government, as well as anchored on UNDP country program document and the strategic partnership cooperation framework that has been running since 2017 and ending in 2021. Ladies and gentlemen, we know that in the past 25 years, the country has made significant progress in the quest to improve the living standards of the people. Under the MDGs, for example, Eritrea was among the few countries in this region that managed to meet the health-related goals. And indeed, they continue to invest in critical areas of skills development, health, and education, which are very pertinent in terms of building a human capital that can take the country forward. Later today, in this discussion, we shall hear the panelists. They'll have a chance to share some of their reflections on some of the important milestones achieved through our development cooperation. And of course, we all look forward to hearing their insights, particularly from our government partners, from the Ministry of Justice and Ministry of Land, Water, and Environment, who will be joining the discussion. At UNDP, we remain committed to accompany Eritrea in its quest for sustainable development in the spirit of national ownership, and of course, for the country to be able to meet its development agenda in the context of sustainable development goals by the year 2030. We look forward to strengthening our partnership with the government and people of Eritrea in the coming years to build on the gains achieved and to foster development for all. Let me thank you all for attending today's event, and we definitely look forward to a meaningful and productive exchange. Thank you very much, and over to you, moderator, Louise.
Thank you very much, James. Now, everyone, as we've been formally and warmly welcomed by the resident representative, James Wakiaga, we will now move ahead to look at the rest of the program that we have. We will be streaming for your interest and enjoyment, a video production of UNDP, a brief journey of what we have contributed or we worked collaboratively with the government of Eritrea and other development partners over the few years that we have been around. UNDP is more than 50 years old, but we are very young in Eritrea. But at the same time, our achievement and support cannot be measured as young. After the video streaming, we'll walk into the presentations where we'll have a very distinguished gentleman and lady walk us through various topics linked to the sustainable development goals. What we have worked together with the government of Eritrea in trying to achieve. So I think at this point, Senai and then Monica, I will revert to you to go ahead and stream the video.
Today we celebrate 25 years of UNDP's presence in Eritrea. We started as a liaison office in 1992, and in 1993, UNDP fully supported the UN-supervised referendum for the creation of the state of Eritrea. And in 1994, in January, we became a full-fledged UNDP office. So we've accompanied the country in the last 25 years in its quest for sustainable development.
We've been working with the government of Eritrea to look more into areas of sustainable environmental management, but also smart agriculture. And we think that it is something that we need for sustainability.
UNDP has been focused on sustainable ecosystem that supports improved livelihoods of rural farming communities, increased access to renewable clean energy, promotion of food security through sustainable ecosystem and climate change adaptation programs.
The Small Grants Program mainly focuses on environmental and natural resource conservation, which is community-based. The main focal areas are land degradation, protection of land degradation, conservation of biodiversity, climate change, adaptation and mitigation, protection of persistent organic pollutants and chemicals, and protection of international waters.
ናይ ምሕደራ ካብ ብጽሕፈት ፕሬዚደንት ጀሚርካ ሚኒስትሪ ኦፍ ፋይናንስ ባንኪንግ ሲስተም ፊሸሪስ ሰንትራል ፐርሰናል ሰርቪስ ላይሰንስ ኦፊስ ኣብዚ ኩሉ ዝካፈል ነይሩ።
We focus on capacity building, we on climate change, we focus on women empowerment, we focus on youth empowerment, we also focus on HIV. I can say that we are everywhere as UNDP.
UNDP has had an opportunity not only providing financial but also technical support, listening to what the people and the government of Eritrea want. And based on that, we are able to mobilize our own expertise based on the needs that are on the ground and helping to contribute in that journey of making the country prosperous.
Where we are trying to help the government strengthen and build its national systems so that they can best respond to the needs of the people of Eritrea. And we've been working in the area of access to justice, ensuring that we decentralize or make the right to development accessible to everybody at each point in time.
The European Union and the UNDP have already a very good track record of working together in Eritrea. Together we provided support for the resettlement of internally displaced persons. Later on we have joint programs in the field of food security. We are working together to provide clean and affordable electricity, and this is also a great opportunity to strengthen their partnership and to do more things together, benefiting the people of Eritrea.
The UNDP has different cooperations with the National Union of Eritrean Women. The microcredit program was planned by the National Union of Eritrean Women, especially for the ex-fighters that were demobilized from the military. The aim of this project was advancement of women in decision making, in economic empowerment, in other harmful traditional practices also to fight against this all. UNDP had a great role in this issue. So UNDP still they are one of the partners within our missions and visions of the organization.
The mission of the youth organization is empowering youth and building capacity. So one of the supporters of this program was the UNDP. Under this program, capacity building through economic aspect, empowerment of youth and skill development program, providing vocational skill training, inclusive of entrepreneurship training, microcredit grant, UNDP being as a donor.
Main cooperation was during the establishment of the Eritrean Institute of Management. Mainly the objective was in strengthening the capacity of the center so that it provides training services to the public servants.
The UNDP is based on a mutual and bilateral cooperation which focuses on the cooperation that enhances the public audit in Eritrea. We can say we have established a very credible audit institution here in Eritrea, which is recognized worldwide, and we have got a very good place in Afro-SAE. UNDP has been so far very fruitful and successful.
I'm proud to say that the UNDP staff have been at the forefront, really working very closely with the government partners and the people of Eritrea in their quest to build a strong and prosperous nation.
Thank you very much, Stella. What a very interesting video. And that will walk us into the next stage of our program and agenda today. Let me please draw the attention of participants across, people that are part of this conversation, that you can drop questions, you can drop inquiries, you can drop concern, you can drop anything in the chat box, and we will try to address them as we progress. Before we move to the next stage of the conversation, let me just try to introduce my panelists that will be speaking to us very soon. Indeed, we have listened to already to the UNDP resident representative, Mr. James Wakianga, who has extensive experience as an economist. Proud to be the resident representative. He was the senior economist at the United Nations Development Program in Ethiopia. He was previously the senior economist in Zimbabwe, and he has also worked extensively as the chief economist and director in the Kenya's Foreign Services, and served as the economic and political counsel of the Kenya Embassy in Washington, D.C. So he's very solid and grounded, and he'll be making interjections in the conversations that we are going to follow later on. We also have with us Ms. Fatimata Sise. Fatimata Sise is a senior economist of UNDP, covering 2 country offices, UNDP in Sudan and UNDP in Eritrea. So she has a very convoluted portfolio to deal with. She is a development economist and holds a PhD. Until joining UNDP, he was the regional policy advisor on UN Women's Economic Empowerment for UN Women for East and Southern Africa Regional Office. Her work generally focused on advancing the understanding and the impact of women's empowerment in economic and agricultural development. We have, as part of our panelists, Hapte Gabriel. Hapte is a thorough professional with over 21 years of experience, extensive experience with UNDP, advancing through various roles and responsibility, and currently a program specialist and the head of the strategic governance unit. His portfolio covers our capacity development support to government and building strong and resilient public sector institutions. It includes advancing the rights. It includes access to justice. And it includes improving the country's communication for development. Adam is our program specialist with over 20 years of extensive experience in environment, energy, climate change, and smart agriculture. He has been involved in developing various policy instruments, looking at building sustainable and resilient agricultural support to the government of Eritrea. He's currently a program specialist and the head of the Inclusive Sustainable Development Unit. We're happy to have two of our distinguished government partners that are joining us today in this conversation. We have Seung Tekle, who has over 18 years experience in the judiciary, up to the level of presiding judge of the High Court of the Commercial Division. Currently, he is a senior staff attorney at the Legal Services Department of the Ministry of Justice of the state of Eritrea. Last but not least, we have Aman Salih, who works with the Ministry of Land, Water and Environment for over 16 years of accumulated experience, currently the Director of Environmental Information and Awareness Division. Invited guests, all of you joining us, help me to welcome our distinguished panelists who will be speaking to various topics as outlined in the agenda and the program that we have shared. At this point, for us to be able to maximize the time, we will allow the panelists to make their presentations focusing on the topics, and we'll kindly indulge all of us to note whatever comments or questions that we have, and those questions and comments could be addressed at the Q&A section. I know it's going to be a long one because listening to about 5 to 6 presenters and noting down comments could be challenging, but that is the best way we want to approach this conversation to be able to maximize the time that we have. So, Senna, if you could bring the program back to the screen, if you could share the screen on the program. Okay. Thank you. Okay, so without much wasting time, I'll call on my first panelist, the resident representative of UNDP in Eritrea, to give us his thoughts and reflections on the topic, but zeroing down more on leaving no one behind as we try to build a prosperous and sustainable economy for Eritrea. Welcome, Resident Representative. Over.
Thank you, Luis. I think in my earlier remarks, I touched quite a bit in terms of what I see as some of the entry points and areas of partnership and cooperation between UNDP and the government of Eritrea. And therefore, I wouldn't want to take more minutes, but probably what I'll do is just to set the stage for the next speaker, who is going to be Fatmata, in terms of what we consider to be the UNDP offer. And so what I'll say is, in terms of contextualizing the discussion, it's basically about fostering sustainable development. And of course, sustainable development in the context of the global framework is being anchored on the Agenda 2030. And therefore, we are looking at the social, economic, as well as environmental dimensions of sustainable development. And these are some of the areas that UNDP works on. These are areas of our mandate, and these are the areas, of course, which the esteemed government of Eritrea has also been putting its investment on as part of fostering sustainable development. I think in the context of the Agenda 2030, the issue of the leaving no one behind, it's basically making sure we move towards the absolute of eradicating poverty, and basically making sure that people live a decent life. And therefore, most of our governments, that's where the investments have been going. And as UNDP, we work with governments, other partners, civil society, private sector, to basically foster sustainable development in the context of looking at some of the dimensions, whether social or economic, to which we need to put our investment on. And therefore, UNDP does have a plethora of frameworks, tools, and instruments that we use to support development. And in the context of the COVID-19 pandemic, which I did allude in my earlier remarks, and how we've seen disruption, one of the instruments we've been able to develop is the COVID-19 2.0, and basically looking at some of the entry points in terms of the impacts of the COVID-19 on the social as well as economic life in the areas of health, the areas of education. We've seen massive disruption across the world. And so under COVID-19 2.0, UNDP looks at some of the interventions in which we can support countries, particularly in the area of the social protection system, which is very critical, in the area of the health strengthening, which is important, as well as in the area of making sure that people living with disability, for example, who are equally impacted, how do we ensure that we are able to make sure that they are able to earn a decent living, or they are able to have some livelihood. Then the other instrument, which I think is important, is what we call UNDP Offer for Africa. And it looks at almost about 5 pillars that cuts across areas of trade and development, in the area of capacity development across different strata of development. And so what I will do, and which I think will do justice, is to invite Fatmata then to take us through this offer, particularly the Africa offer, which I think is important and resonates mostly with most of our countries that are still at that stage of development in terms of investment in infrastructure, in terms of promotion of trade and development, as well as in terms of building human capital. So let me leave it there, but I'll be happy to come in as other panelists also make their contribution. So back to you, Luis.
Thank you very much, James, for setting the stage and giving us highlights of the various instruments and what we are looking into the future, projecting into the future as UNDP as area of support that can help countries build back better. So having set the stage and rightly having said so, we'll invite Fatimata to take the floor. As I've said, Fatimata is the Senior Economics Advisor covering UNDP, Eritrea, and UNDP Sudan. So we'll invite us to walk us through what is the UNDP Renewed Strategic Offer in Africa, and how are we planning, or how have we positioning UNDP to help countries build back better post-COVID. Over to you, Fatimata.
Thank you very much, Luis. Good afternoon, colleagues. At UNDP, the UNDP resident representative, Mr. James Waikagi, and all colleagues, special guests, and every participant who's at this meeting. I greet you all and kindly ask you to allow me to observe all protocols, as it is, of course, a lot more difficult trying to recognize protocols when we are only doing a virtual meeting. For today, I want to go straight to what is expected of me, to map out what is UNDP's offer in Africa, and hopefully by the end of my presentation, be able to show how that applies in the case of Eritrea. First, and again, as James had said when he just spoke recently, UNDP's promise to Africa, which is the renewed strategic offer, is building strongly on and driven by the SDGs framework. I think that's a point that is very important to note at the beginning. It also builds on the decade of action and a call on UNDP for a strategic turnaround on the continent. Also important is to know that this call that we're referring to, or this promise and the offer to Africa, is very much aligned with regional frameworks on the continent. And this is with regards to the Africa Union's Agenda 2063 and the just over a year-old Africa Continental Free Trade Area. So the aim of this offer to Africa is to ensure that UNDP's position is strengthened as a premier and an integrator to see countries achieve the 2030 Sustainable Development Agenda. And the offer is actually responding to what is described as remaining challenges on the continent. I'll mention a few of them: persistent inequalities, and this includes income inequalities, gender inequality, spatial inequalities within boundaries, weak governance institutions, climate change, which continues to affect a number of countries on the continent, rapid population growth, and stalled industrialization, and also rising forms of violence. And it's important to lay an emphasis on this because we've observed a decline in conflict in a number of countries in Africa, but there are other forms of violence that have been rearing some ugly heads, including terrorism, etc., that continue to plague the continent. So this is what the offer is really building on. And as mentioned earlier on, there are 6 strategic impact areas of the offer. Since we have them on the screen, I'll refrain from reading them over, but just kindly ask participants and all those listening to remember this strategic impact area when I get to speak about how this applies to Eritrea. To also mention that these impact areas need enablers for us to succeed even in natural resource governance on the continent. We need to discuss issues of governance of things. Kindly note that the numbers are not necessarily aligned to each other, so the enablers are for all strategic impact areas. So digital transformation is important, discussing innovative financing is really key. South-South cooperation, as we have a number of countries with similar characteristics, that learning from each other paves a better opportunity to learn and grow from experiences of others, probably than learning from outside. Now, I also want to clearly say that this offer and this focus on this 6 strategic impact area is really anchored around the belief that a complete change or the economic transformation required on the continent hinges on the abilities and the capabilities of communities and nations themselves on the continent of Africa. And this is the position that UNDP takes, that countries in Africa are not mere recipients of development assistance, but they themselves are major players in the transformational change that is required. Now, the strategic offer was done just before the experience of the pandemic globally. And I mean, James also mentioned a number of the impact that a number of the countries, and probably all countries in the world, have actually gone through and going through and likely in the near future. As a result, this strategic offer, there was a kind of a revision and a rethinking around it in the context of how to respond to COVID-19. So there was first a COVID-19 1.0 offer, wherein UNDP's focus was supporting countries in building health systems, procurement of much needed health equipment and materials, and also undertaking socioeconomic assessments on the impact of the pandemic and a response for the UN system. Now, that was sometime in March, but then moving on, and then the continued and even the escalation of the pandemic, it was then observed that some strategic thinking is also required to make sure that the offer remains valid in a time like this. And this is when UNDP then had a rethink and saying we are really at the tipping point to be able to use this pandemic as an opportunity to leapfrog and probably for countries to develop even some more beyond recovery. So this is a pathway beyond recovery and to look at the Sustainable Development Goals very closely. Again, the pandemic is observed as the experience that is likely to reduce the gains or even wipe away the gains in human development since human development was measured in 1990. So then we had the UN socioeconomic response. UNDP was technically leading this among UN agencies, but it also looks at a humanitarian response, as well as, of course, the health response. So UNDP presented this integrated way of working beyond looking at the health system, socioeconomic and procurement are related for the health. This pathway is shown clearly by this picture that I'm not going to be able to go through because of time, but there's a 7 pathway emerging tipping points. And again, if we remember this, they are very much linked to the earlier on mentioned the strategic impact areas for the offer in Africa. Now, if we bring this closer beyond recovery towards 2030, there are really 4 integrated areas that UNDP has prioritized, given COVID-19 and its impact on the continent and in the world, as well as the strategic offer and the 7 impact areas. These are being summarized into 4 key areas, integrated areas. 1 is on governance, green economy, social protection, and digital disruption. If we are able to work strategically with countries around those 4 integrated prioritized area, and this again was based on immediate and emerging demands that partners mentioned as UNDP was positioning the organization globally. Now, what does all of this mean for Eritrea? And I think this is really critical for the discussions we are having today. We are in UNDP is 25 years in Eritrea, and it's so important to see that the work of UNDP in Eritrea is aligned with this regional and continent-wide thinking that the organization is positioning its work. First, we know the country program development document, which runs from 2017-2021. And by next year, it's a real opportunity that UNDP in Eritrea will be preparing another country program document for another 3 years, right at the time when the context will have been different given the pandemic, the context will have been different given the need to align to the strategic offer. But for now, we can already see from the video that we watched, as well as from what the UNDP in Eritrea plans to do for the past 3 years up to next year, the 3 pillars: inclusive growth and livelihoods, sustainable natural resource management, and resilience to climate change and disaster. I'm sure my colleagues speaking after me will all mention this, and accountable institutions all work towards the strategic offer already. And as I said, the new CPD is going to even elaborate further on this. And all of this, if you look at the UNDP Eritrea's CPD, are anchored on national priorities. Because countries have committed to the Sustainable Development Goals and the strategic offer, the basis of it is the SDGs. Once a new CPD is done, we will see that national priorities are definitely key and center to UNDP's work in Eritrea. These are some of the reflection I wanted to share to give the anchor of our global regional framework and the vision that is going to be positioned for UNDP in Eritrea, which is a tipping point, but to work beyond recovery and to have 2030 agenda in mind. I will stop here at this time, and thank you very much, and we'll be happy to respond to, my colleague James will pick up on any questions that we raise with regards to the presentation. Thank you, and over to you, Luis.
Thank you very much, Fatima, for your elaborate and very informative presentation. It's a lot of, it's very loaded, and it will take us a bit of time to digest and really imbibe all of its content. But you've given us very good pointers. You've given us what we should be looking at as we walk into the preparation of a new cooperation agreement with government, ensuring that our development support is underpinned by national priorities and anchored on the global instruments or offer, which is the SDGs and of course the African Continental Free Trade Agreements, as well as other instruments that should underpin how we program our support for Eritrea. As we said, we've asked every participant that is here to note questions, areas of collaboration, possible collaborations that we can have, and then note them in the chat box as we move on. And when we are done with all the presentations or the submissions from our panelists, we will come back and look at how we can address these questions that are being posed. Without taking too much time, I will invite the next speaker, who is Adam, to take us through. Adam will be looking at.
Thank you.
Okay, go ahead, Adam. I think you have already come on board. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Luis. Welcome and good afternoon, everyone. This is according to Asmara time, probably others are in the morning, so good morning. Yeah, so my name is Adam Haptap. I'm a program specialist with UNDP, and having briefly introduced myself, I'll walk you through the work done in the area of environment, natural resource, for security and renewable energy through Government of State of Eritrea and UNDP Development Partnership in the last decade or so. So, okay, so like I will start with the background for the intervention or for the partnership between the government of Eritrea and the UNDP. So, what is the state for the intervention? So Eritrea has diversified ecogeographic zones with a significant diversity of fauna and flora, both in the terrestrial and marine ecosystems. This environmental and natural resource upon which majority of Eritrean population depend for their social and economic activities or livelihoods are, however, under pressure resulting from natural and anthropogenic factors related to land degradation, climate change, and loss of biodiversity. The health and productive potential of the land are central to improve agriculture and increase food production and economic growth in the country. Cognizant of these critical issues, the government of State of Eritrea considers environmental protection, natural resource conservation, and use to be strategic areas contributing directly to the well-being of the population, food nutrition security, and national sustainable development. Next slide, please, Sanai. So having briefly described the context or the background for the intervention, let me take you to the national response. This national response are the government of State Eritrea in collaboration with UNDP. So in response to what is on the ground, what is happening in the environment, government has formulated a number of policies, legal and institutional measures to address conservation of natural resource and biodiversity, some of which are multilateral and some of them are national ones. So let me take you to the multilateral or international conventions that Eritrea committed itself. Especially, there are a number of them, but what I brought here are some examples. Framework for Convention on Climate Change, Convention to Combat Desertification, Convention on Biological Diversity, Convention on International Trade of Endangered Species. There are a number of conventions that Eritrea ratified and committed itself. Next, please. Emanating from this international conventions or multilateral agreement, Eritrea also prepared a number of national action plans. Some of the important ones are the National Adaptation Program of Action, the National Action Program for Eritrea to combat desertification and mitigate the effects of drought, National Biodiversity Strategy and Action Plans. These are really to respond to the international commitment and to support the action plans in the country. Next, please. And on top of that, the country also proclaimed and prepared a number of national policies and strategies to support conservation and wise use of natural resources in the country. Some of which are outlined here, like forestry and wildlife conservation, regulation for the issuance of wildlife permits, agricultural sector policy, land tenure proclamation, marine and coastal sector policies and strategies. These are some of the examples that were prepared and implemented by the state of the government of Eritrea. Having taken you through all the background and the legal and institutional framework that the country has put, and emanating from those policies and legal frameworks, the country also, I mentioned that the government also prepared a number of action plans. So from those action plans, the government also put an action on the ground, a number of projects and programs in the following areas, like rehabilitation of degraded terrestrial ecosystem and their component through a combination of natural succession, protected area establishment, conservation of the coastal, marine, and island biodiversity, conservation of agricultural biodiversity. These are the bigger areas that the government and in collaboration with the UNDP and other development partners have been doing. Okay, so like I can also mention some of the projects that the regional government in collaboration with UNDP have been implementing on the ground. So these are the number of projects. So next. Okay, Sanai, can you show them some of the pictures? Go down. Yeah, so these are some of the pictures from the field of the projects that we have been doing in collaboration with the government of State of Eritrea. This is one of our projects, very good project, Sustainable Land Management Project. Another one is Adaptation Fund Project. This is in Seba. We have done a number of environmental conservation and water conservation projects. This is Adaptation Fund again. Sanai, can you quickly display so this is also an Adaptation Fund project. This one is the Protected Area Systems Management Project. Another one is Rora Harbor project. This is a pipeline project that this will start very soon. Go down. Go down. Do you please display the solar energy project? Yeah, and this is a very good project that is being implemented through the Eritrean government, UNDP and EU collaboration. It's 2.5 megawatts, and it will support 40,000, more than 40,000 people, or about 10,000 households. This is Madam Araza. Yeah, this is some of the pictures. Yeah. And the map, can you show them the map also where we are operating? Sanai, next one. Yeah, so these are our map indicating location of UNDP supported projects in Eritrea. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Adam, for walking us through what we have been doing in the area of environment, natural resource management, climate change, and resilience, agriculture, and economy. I think one of the interesting things that when I visited some of the field was the achievement that we marked with the adaptation project, building back communities and places that were literally desert areas and being able to afforestate them, and therefore gaining some traction for agricultural activities, including the check dams, bridging communities, and at the same time providing water around the season for families to engage in agricultural activities. We will move into the next presentation, and that presentation will be done by Hapte. Hapte is our governance specialist, and he's also the head of the strategic governance unit. As I had earlier indicated, the portfolio of support over the periods include capacity development, building strong and resilient institutions, supporting access to justice, improving youth skills and entrepreneurial development, empowering women, and also looking at areas of innovation. So Hapta, if you can give us a brief and of course highlights of our journey, what we have doing in partnership with the government of Eritrea, but of course in partnership with our other development community, the UN system, and also our development partners that have been part of this journey. Over to you, Hapte.
Okay, thank you, Luis. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Hapte Gabres. I'm a program specialist working with the UNDP in the governance unit. So I'm going to take you through our partnership with the government for the last 25 years. So I will be brief because the time I'm given only 5 minutes. So I'll try to be as brief as possible. So as you know, governance and capacity building is very important to achieve sustainable development. So in partnership with government, we have went through, okay. So for the last 25 years, we have 7 program cycle. Okay, for the last 25 years, we have 7 program cycle, which started in 1992. So the first program is emergency, the second bridging program, the first country cooperation framework from 1997-2001, the second CCF, the country action plan 2007-2012, strategic partnership cooperation framework from 2013-2016. And we have also the second strategic partnership cooperation framework, which is currently from 2017 up to 2021. On all these 7 program cycles, governance or capacity building has been identified one of the key strategic area of intervention is by UNDP and government. The overall objective of UNDP Eritrea in the area of governance or capacity building is geared toward promoting peaceful and inclusive society for sustainable development, then providing access to justice for all, and the third one is building effective, accountable, and inclusive institutions at all levels that will contribute toward the achievement of MDG, SDG in a very effective way. So our intervention is linked to MDG and SDG. So since we are talking about 25 years of journey, our program is an interventionist contribute to MDG and the SDG. So if you are referring to MDG, our program linked to goal 1, goal 3, and goal 8, which is eradicate poverty, promote gender issue, and develop global partnership for development. Then our program is also linked to SDG, which is goal 5, gender equality, goal 8, decent work and economic growth, and goal 16, which is peace, justice, strong institutions. So for the last 25 years, our key intervention area that is identified with by UNDP and the government is access to justice, civil service administration, human rights, local governance, data for development, study and research, housing and urban development, youth empowerment, gender equality and empowerment of women, build effective, accountable, inclusive institutions. This is the key areas, but doesn't mean that we are not supporting the government in any area, but I'm trying to be more focused on these key interventions. So since 1992, UNDP is supporting the government in many areas, in many programs. I'm going to mention one of the key achievements that we have since 1992. One is, as Luis James mentioned it, as part of the UN system, we support the government in conducting and organizing referendum. Then we have also established of the Eritrean Institute of Management, which is key area for capacity building. This institute has provided different kind of a program, different kind of a training to government civil servants in the area of administration, in the area of procurement, in the area of accounting, in the area of procurement. So it's a very key kind of interventions. We have also assisted the government in the structuring of a business license office. I think this was 94, 95. That restructuring of business license office reduced the issue of license from around to take of 6 months to less than 1 hour, 1 day. We have also support the government in the establishment of Eritrean Information Service Agency. We have also support the government, support of establishment of Office International Cooperation, Macro Policy, and then economic coordination. We have also an intervention which is related to data for development. We support the National Statistics Office to collect data, to analyze data, and at the same time to publish different kind of data. We also have a partnership with the Ministry of Justice. With the Ministry of Justice, we have a lot of interventions, especially on focusing on human and institutional capacity building. We have also support the government in drafting new codes like civil procedure, commercial code, penal code. I think my friend Siyum will go through that. We have also support the Ministry of Justice in the establishment of alternative dispute resolution, which we call it community courts. We have also some intervention with Civil Service Administration through this program or project. We support the Civil Service Administration in the drafting of a proclamation on Civil Service Administration. We also support them in updating their management information system. We have also different with the higher education. We did a lot of studies and researches. In July 2016, we have organized with the government a big international conference on research and studies on Eritrea. So in that international conference, different kind of papers, different kind of researches has been presented. A lot of discussion has been conducted at that time. We have also, from that international conference, we managed to publish 2 big volumes, which covers environment, diplomacy, gender, you name it. So I think this for the first time since 1992 that we organize such kind of international conference on research and study. We have also a pilot program, which we call it Answer by Local Governance. Through this program, we try to introduce some the elements of local government, like planning, like identification of program and projects. Through this program, we managed to construct different kinds of schools, clinics, dams, feeder roads, some other activities. We have also with the Minister of Public Works, I think it is for the first time, we prepare housing and urban development policy. We have also for the first time, we support the government in conducting labor force survey. This is very, very crucial, and at the same time, it's a very, very, very interesting interventions because it's for the first time we managed to conduct this labor force survey. We have also some interventions with public financing and auditing. We have also a program or project, empowerment of youth. Through this youth program, we give different kind of skills like woodwork, metalwork, entrepreneurship. So we support the youth to have some kind of a skill, and at the same time to create some kind of a job, and at the same time to give them some microcredit and startup kits. We have also some kind of a support in gender equality and empowerment of women. Through these interventions, we support the Women's Association to produce 6 set of reports, and at the same time to draft gender action plan, strategic plan, and at the same time we support them in the establishment of microcredit. So I will go to the opportunity. So what kind of opportunity we have for the time being? So I think we have a peace agreement between Eritrea and Ethiopia. So this will be an opportunity for UNDP to have different kind of interventions. We have also human and institutional capacity constraints at all levels. So this could be an opportunity for us. There is also a lack of data and information in this country. So that could be an opportunity for UNDP. We also have an opportunity in the intervention of economic and internal and external investment. including regional integration, and at the same time, we have also potential in my sector. So what are the future programs of UNDP with the government? So as I mentioned, that we'll have there is a possibility of have a future program on comprehensive national development plan, access to justice, human rights, data for development, information and communication, gender equality, youth, and investment, local governance, innovation, and homegrown solution. That could be our next future programs with the government of Eritrea. So all our interventions and support is to overall national development agenda and to achieve NSDG. We are not replacing the government, just we are supporting the government to achieve its agenda, development agenda. All our programs and projects, we did it through a very consultative and participatory process. And I want to reiterate that all our programs are government owned. So as I mentioned that, we contribute to the government development agenda. We are not on the driving side, but the government usually take the lead on that. So back to you, Luis. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Hafter, for the presentation and highlights of what we have achieved in partnership with the government of Eritrea and of course other development partners. I can see very key milestone achievements, including building and establishing institutions, and these institutions have remained resilient and serving the population and the good people of Eritrea. All this while we have been listening to colleagues from the UNDP, the resident representative, Fatima, senior economic advisor, Adam and Hafter, who just completed their submissions. I think it's now time for us to listen to the government counterparts who are here. We have, as I mentioned in my introduction, we have two key government partners that are joining us this afternoon. We have Aman Salah from the Ministry of Land, Water and Environment, with over 16 years of experience providing leadership and policy guidance and advice to the government of Eritrea. He's the Director of Environmental Information and Awareness Division. And I would like to give him the floor to share some reflections with us. How has it been working with UNDP for the past 25 years? And how do you see us working together towards the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals? Or as the government of Eritrea prioritize its new development cooperation framework. So over to you, Aman, if you will take the floor.
Okay, thank you, Luis. First of all, I would like good afternoon for all of the participants. My name is Aman Saleh from the Department of Environment, Ministry of Land, Water and Environment. I'm working as a Director of Environmental Information and Awareness Division. My presentation mainly focus Eritrea holistic approach to the environmental imperatives. Previously, my colleague Adam mentioned what UNDP's intervention to the different focal areas like biodiversity, land degradation, and climate change. But I mainly focus on the government's effort towards the conservation and sustainable development concerning the environmental issue. Eritrea's development aspiration is to achieve rapid, balanced, and country-driven environmental sustainable development. The national focus has been on sustainable and integrated management of natural resource and ecosystem to boost national resilience as well as gender equality. The effort has been to respond to national challenges for improving and sustaining social progress and environmental sustainability, capacity development, accelerated inclusive growth, food security, livelihood, gender and youth empowerment, human welfare, and social and child protection. The Eritrean government strives to improve the gaps that has been expressed in relation to inadequate human and institutional capacity to acquire climate change data, information, knowledge, and wisdom to protect medium to long-term climate change impact and integrate adaptation and mitigation measures in national, sector, and subnational policy plans, budget, as well as in monitoring system. As all of us know, biodiversity is vital to survival of all life on Earth and is also cornerstone for the goods and services of the environment that allow human society to thrive. Consequently, the government has a great deal of commitment to conserve the existing biodiversity of the nation and enhancing it where as possible. As biodiversity provides us with food, water, resource, as well as services such as climate control, flood mitigation, and cycling of nutrient, etc. In this endeavor, albeit its challenge, Eritrea's strategy has been a community-based holistic approach that focuses on economic, social, and environmental aspects. It has clearly followed an ecosystem conservation and restoration that ensured opportunity to generate growth, create jobs, business, and reduce poverty. In all intervention, suitable approach has been so that encouraging local actions and increase local environmental benefits. Another aspect for improvement to agricultural production, productivity and resilience building in the face of natural hazard also key features for cooperation. Eritrea's problems that relate to obsolete pesticide and other contaminant matter has been very complex. The government of State of Eritrea, through the Department of Environment, the Ministry of Land, Water, and Environment, has showed readiness to safeguard and nurture the environment by introducing several environmental focused instruments, the National Environmental Management Plan of Eritrea 1995, and the National Environmental Assessment Procedure and Guidelines, NAPG in 1999, has been the major regulatory instrument. However, recently in 2017, the Department of Environment has issued the Eritrea Environmental Protection, Management, and Rehabilitation framework that give great input to establish the foundation of environmental management and protection laws and provide the institutions and legal instruments for their implementation and enforcement. At the end, the government of Eritrea have been committed and encouraging people in the country to save and protect our environment from the different environmental challenges the country is facing today. Likewise, the peace agreement between Eritrea and Ethiopia has put an end to long-standing conflict and normalized ties between the two countries. This achievement is expected to contribute to strengthening security and instability in the region, as well as offering Eritrea potential golden development opportunity and an important platform for promoting the dimension of environmental sustainable development goals. I thank you, all of you. Thank you, Luis.
Thank you so much, Aman, for highlighting the national development priorities in the area of environment and natural resource management. And of course, underpinning the government strategy of ensuring community-based approaches, holistic approaches to equitable development. We will listen to our last presentation. We have not been doing very well with time. Apologies to participants that we will wait a bit on time, but we will listen to our last presenter or panelist who will give us a gist in the area of what we have been working with the government of Eritrea over the past 18 years in the area of access to justice or support to the Ministry of Justice. We have Mr. Sium Tekle with over 18 years of experience in judiciary. He's Currently, he's at the stage of the High Court, Commissioner Division, currently Senior Staff Attorney at the Legal Services Department of Ministry of Justice of the State of Eritrea. Mr. Siom, over to you. Hello?
Yeah. Thank you, Louis, for the kind introduction. I don't think I need to introduce myself again. I would like to take this opportunity to congratulate everyone on this big occasion, celebrating the 25th anniversary of the strategic partnership between the government of the state of Eritrea and UNDP. The topic for my presentation is UNDP support in institutional capacity development endeavors of the Ministry of Justice of the state of Eritrea. Just to fully understand the importance of these areas of partnership, let me give brief information regarding the Ministry of Justice. The Ministry of Justice of the state of Eritrea is the major government organ with a mandate to administer the strengthening of judicial and prosecution divisions, especially to play their role in the realization of the national plan of equality, sustainable development, and social justice. And taking this into consideration, the ministry has mission statements, including ensuring availability of fair, consistent, predictable, uniform, easily accessible justice by considering the community participation, as well as maintaining the Eritrean values of human dignity, justice, and fairness, creating efficient, responsible, accountable, transparent, and ethical administration of justice, and developing well-equipped technology-supported human capital. And in line with this, the ministry also has the objectives, including expanding the geographical coverage of all the services, the judiciary, executive, as well as the judiciary, prosecution, as well as other related services in the country, reinforcing the relevant institutional capacity of the human resources, drafting laws, strengthening community participation in the justice system, introducing technology-supported working schemes, uplifting the legal knowledge of the public, and reinforcing the working relationship with other key stakeholders like the police, prison authority, and administration organs. In this area, the UNDP has been, I should say, dependable partner in realizing the human and institutional capacity building of the Ministry of Justice. For the sake of this presentation, I will try to confine myself in 5 areas of partnership, namely legal framework development, human resource development, community participation in the legal service, raising the legal awareness of the public, and enhancing technology-supported services in the Ministry of Justice. Concerning the legal framework development, by legal framework development, we mean that drafting, consolidation, and revising of national laws. Basically, this is a mandate of the Ministry of Justice, pursuant to Legal Notice 14 of 1993. And generally, laws should be clear, laws should be harmonized, laws should be forward-looking among many. And taking this into consideration, the UNDP provided a number of technical and financial assistance in this respect, especially as my friend Hapte mentioned in the process of drafting the major codes in 2015. And range of research works and translation services were made possible by the help of the UNDP. Apart from that, in the consolidation area, undergoing the consolidation effort, plus training of lawyers with basic consolidation skills were also made possible in partnership with the UNDP. Moving on to the second area of partnership, human resource development.
The human resource development is one of the main areas of focus of the Ministry of Justice. And in this respect, the Ministry of Justice at the beginning had very few number of qualified human human personnel, but later on through other means like in-house training, LLB graduates coming from the School of Law, and providing of graduate level studies in a very limited way, made the human capital of the Ministry of Justice to flourish to a certain extent. In this respect, UNDP is, as I said, a reliable partner, especially regarding the Marka Training Center of the Ministry of Justice by providing all the financial and technical assistance there, and also supporting other in-house training programs of the ministry that will help to enhance the human resource development or human resource capital of the ministry. Another important intervention or assistance of the UNDP is manifested by the postgraduate studies that we are undergoing at the moment. At the moment, 54 judges, prosecutors, and other lawyers are studying their LLM level studies in 10 different areas of legal studies. And other 43 candidates are also underway. They are processing their registration process. And generally, from all these candidates who are pursuing or about to pursue their master's program, 30% of which are female, and this is believed to be one of the most important and highly appreciated contribution of UNDP regarding enhancing human resource development of the Ministry of Justice. Moving on to the third area of partnership, that is community participation. Community participation is important, and this is one of the areas that the ministry is focusing. And the ministry, starting from independence, trying to establish the community participation through different efforts. For example, through establishment of these village courts in 1992, forming mediation elders, and in 2003, establishing the community courts were some of the efforts of the Ministry of Justice. And in this regard, UNDP has always provided technical and financial support regarding the training of community court judges. These were successive training programs that were conducted, I should say, almost every summer during the recess of these community courts, and also preparing training materials and practice manuals for the judges. And these practice manuals were prepared, they were printed, and also distributed to the community court judges with the help of UNDP. In the fourth area, that is raising the legal awareness of the general public, I think I don't need to explain the importance of raising the legal awareness of the public, but it is one of the mandates of the Ministry of Justice, pursuant to Legal Notice 14 of 1993. And the Ministry of Justice, through different outlets, try to enhance the knowledge of the public in legal area, like, for example, in the documents printed on the Hadas Eritrea newspaper, and the Eritrea program, and also radio programs in national languages. In this regard, the UNDP provided assistance, that is financial, basically, but to produce TV series programs which are supposed to be broadcasted on Eritrea. And also the UNDP helped the Ministry of Justice to establish a digital studio so that the Ministry of Justice can record events, can also record and archive audiovisual lectures, and also professional seminars, and also produce in-house public awareness programs. And the last, of course, not least, partnership with the UNDP focuses on e-justice infrastructure. In this respect, it is so obvious that it requires high technical, financial, and material assistance. Thus, the UNDP provides constant support through the process of developing case flow management software. Homegrown software has also been developed to introduce paperless system in the ministry with the help of UNDP, and also the digitalization of court cases and access to broadband internet connectivity that helps the distance learning program of law students for their LLM degree. So these were the major interventions or the major assistance provided by the UNDP. The Ministry of Justice is relentlessly working to develop its institutional capacity to meet its mission and fulfill its mandate. In this regard, it has been, as has been stated, UNDP has been a reliable and dependable partner since 1997, and Ministry of Justice is always appreciative of this cooperation with UNDP. Happy 25th anniversary. Back to you, Luis.
Thank you very much for a very elaborate presentation. And of course, we do accept the happy 25th anniversary wishes. And we will say the same to you. We have journeyed this far because we have worked together as very trusted and transparent partners. At this point of our conversation, I would like to refer to my colleague co-moderator, Jacqueline, to walk us through if we have any questions or areas, issues that we would like the presenters and panelists to clarify. Then we will run a quick summary of probably whatever we think are the key takeaway points, and we'll give the opportunity to our resident representative to close our conversation. Jacqueline, over to you.
Thank you, Luis. Thank you. So there we have it. And thank you so much for our colleagues for wishing us a happy 25th birthday. We appreciate, I think we deserve a little bit happy birthday to us in this regard. So to sum up a little bit what was said is that UNDP has a very, the past 25 years had a really great relationship in Eritrea with the people and the government of the state of Eritrea. It's a people-centered development in line with the government priorities. We have made sure to align all of the activities and cooperation for economic and social development in a practical fashion. We remained a trusted partner of choice and dependable ally for the past 2 decades. And we also made sure to enable the Eritrean people through skills development, knowledge sharing, and capacity building. And as Sium just explained it to us, where we've been strengthening the capacity and building the capacity in the Ministry of Justice. And also one of the things that UNDP has been making sure to do is to support the government of Eritrea in advising on policy options toward achieving the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and advocating for sustainable developments, and also partnering with the government of Eritrea in setting up an effective, accountable governance institution, as you have heard it. And also one of the last but not least, partnering with the government of the state of Eritrea in promoting sustainable management of natural environment, climate change adaptation, and increased livelihood. So that's those are the key messages that kind of came up from various panelists. I've been going through the question and the chat and the Q&A. I haven't seen any questions, so I would strongly encourage you, if you have any question, please feel free. This is your moment to ask question to UNDP. As you can see it, we do it once every 25 years. You'll have to wait 25 years. Okay, so there's my first question. So the first question that just came up right now is what was the tangible and research-based work of UNDP toward Eritrean youth development, youth empowerment, and youth entrepreneurship? Secondly, apart from the report, what was and will be the UNDP's role in developing government institutional capacity? Thirdly, the third question is what the UNDP's plan in relating to African Youth Charter and Eritrean youth. And fourthly, I believe, finally, I confidently thank you for what you have done so far. So there we have 4 questions for us to respond. Shall I repeat them? Did the panelists hear the questions?
Yes,
we did.
I get it. Okay. Okay, so over to James and probably Fatima.
Okay, thank you very much for those questions. And I think Hapte's presentation did allude to the work we do on the youth entrepreneurship. And this work, as clearly indicated in his presentation, is that it's based on what are the priorities that have been set out by the government, particularly in terms of how do you ensure job opportunities for the youth? And so there is a correlation between skills development in terms of its contribution to youth empowerment as well as youth entrepreneurship. And some of the programs that UNDP has basically look at not only on the skills development, but also on the whole issue of how do you build the right ecosystem that would be able to generate employment opportunities for the youth. And then the whole issue of financing, because I think it's also important for purposes of entrepreneurship that you are able to capitalize some of the business ventures that the youth would like to initiate. So this is an area we are currently engaged, but I think it's also an area for the future development. As you know, a majority of the population, and not only in Eritrea, but globally, are youth. And so there is really need for us as UNDP to partner with different governments in terms of looking at how do we build upon the youth innovativeness to be able to create job opportunities, but also importantly, for them to be self-employed. And since these are the most productive age for driving the economic transformation for the continent. Over. Back to you, Luis.
Jacqueline, go ahead, please.
Okay, we got another question. I would like to ask if there are some community supporting projects by the mining companies, like carbon offset projects in the communities that the mining projects are going. And then it follows with it's the same question. Is there any initiative taken by UNDP to raise public awareness about sustainability development in Eritrea?
Yes, maybe we'll invite Adam, who is our head for sustainable environmental sustainability, or possibly even Aman. If Aman wants to come in, I think should be able to respond to the question on public awareness. So I leave this to Aman and Adam between them to see who gonna respond to this question.
Thank you.
Okay, let me answer in this way. Well, UNDP is not really heavily involved in mining sector, but I should really mention that UNDP did a very good job, like in the recent times, in supporting the government, doing research or an assessment of the potential economic and social and environmental impact or contribution of the Kululi project. This, like particularly the potash mine. What would be the potash mine contribution to the country at national level and the community? So that study showed that there is a lot of wells to be gained across the value chain, from production to all the way to consumption of that potash. So a large part of that potash will be shipped out or sold in the international market, but like about 15% of the potash mine will be retained for the national or for nationals or for national agricultural production in the country. So according to that study, for the 15% of the mine that will have to be used in the country, there will be a very significant wells to be generated across that chain, from the production all the way to the farm. To the farm. So communities will be involved in that chain in terms of transportation of those mines, or the middlemen from the mine to the farmers, and the farmers will be also the biggest or the gainers of this mine, because they will have mine at a reasonably cheap price, and then they can boost their production. So there is a lot of gains to be done across that chain. So this is a very good potential really for the local community and for the local farmers in Eritrea. But from my experience working with a company related to mining industry, the mining companies, they do have a social and environmental units. Especially in the social units, they involve the local community in terms of job opportunity for the skilled and semi-skilled, and they provide training. And local farmers also are, or local communities are involved in terms of supplying some consumables to the mining companies. So in fact, UNDP is very interested really to work with the government in terms of identifying opportunities that would really benefit the communities. So through the study that we did with the Kulili project, we are ready really to engage with the government, to work and to put that study on the ground, and really to work with the communities and see how we can really increase the multiplier effect of that wells to be generated from that mining. But as to the awareness in terms of, I think about environmental sustainability, yeah, this is the main fact, one of the main work that UNDP is doing in collaboration with the government. So in fact, even prior to doing anything on the ground, really the first thing that you go face to face with the people is really to discuss how the environment or their local natural resource will have to be managed and how are going to be used wisely, and we do the local planning with the people. And then especially when we formulate a project, we start with the community really to identify what are the challenges and what are to be done and how are the things to be managed. Thank you.
Okay, it's just good that you ended when I was trying to interject, because I think our participants have been very kind and patient with us. We were supposed to close at an hour and 15 minutes. We have done close to 15 more, close to 25 more minutes on top of that. Let me get back to Jacqueline quickly to see if there are still some burning questions that are there for us to respond to. But of course, let's be very brief and succinct. We do hope that we'll be sharing a webinar recording with participants that have registered. I guess so. And so, Jacqueline, do we still have any burning questions that we need to clarify, respond before we give the floor to? Yes.
Yeah, there's just one. I think this one can, how unique is your relationship with Eritrea compared to other African countries? I think this is for UNDP. And what are the constraints and opportunity of this relationship in general? And where can we find the application and assessment data of the social justice programs that you are doing in Eritrea? So over, that's the last one.
Okay, thank you very much. I think we'll refer to James and then.
Thank you very much, and thanks all the panelists as well as all the attendees for all the questions and comments. And I think these have been very useful, and they'll basically help us in terms of even strengthening some of our areas of intervention. I think with regard to the last question, I think this has been reiterated in terms of underlining the fact that we have a relationship that stretches back to 25 years, and that's why we're having a 25th anniversary. And it's been a cordial, warm relation, and therefore I must say UNDP remains a partner of choice in accompanying Eritrea on its development agenda. And therefore, in terms of our own interventions, I think our interventions, as I mentioned in my remarks, are framed based on our country program document and the strategic partnership cooperation framework, which is the UN cooperation framework that has been signed between the government of Eritrea and the UN. And so this is the basis of which we deliver on our development results, as well as the projects that we do and programs that we do with the government of Eritrea. So over to you, Louise.
Thank you so much. I think along the same line, Jacqueline, if you will agree with me, probably we'll just have to give James to say the final thank you to all the participants. But before that, let me thank the organizers and planners of this event. It's been a very challenging year, as James said in his opening remarks. The COVID-19 almost swept the beauty away of this, how we wanted to celebrate this event. But with a lot of determination and renewed energy, we could not have ended the year without recognizing our 25 years of collaborative work with the government of Eritrea. So I want to thank the organizers. I know it is the right of the president representative to thank the dignitaries and diplomatic community, as well as our distinguished government partners that have been part of this conversation. James, if you can take the floor, and then from that point, we'll close. I don't know, I'm not on the ground. I don't know if there's any other housekeeping issue that we need to know But I think we'll be reaching out again to people, participants through the email. So over to you, James.
Thank you very much, Luis. And let me just take this opportunity to warmly thank all the participants who've been able to join us for this very substantive conversation on fostering sustainable development in Eritrea. I want to thank all the panelists and particularly to our government colleagues, Mr. Sium Tekle and Mr. Aman Saleh. We sincerely really thank you for being part of this panel discussion and for your contribution that has really helped to advance the quality of the discussion this evening. I also want to thank colleagues, as Luis already mentioned, who've been part and parcel of organizing this event. And this is one of a series of the webinars that UNDP Eritrea will be doing. And the whole idea is really to create a platform for dialogue and for us to be able to dialogue on issues that are helpful in terms of fostering sustainable development. So without much ado, let me thank you. I don't want to stand between you and your evening. I know we are getting into a weekend and everybody wants already have their weekend plans. So let me just say thank you and happy 25th anniversary to UNDP. The event is closed. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening. Have a good day. You can still have some day to spend.